centers. We've got this story out of Georgia where an AI data center used 30 million gallons during a drought in Georgia. We also have other reports that the power companies are now using eminent domain to run power lines to basically power these massive data centers. This is going to be a reoccurring theme, apparently, throughout the country. We talked last week about that 46,000-acre data center that's going in Utah. But something dawned on me as I was looking at the headlines today, and that is I remember hearing about how big, giant corporations have exploited third world countries for years. In particular, I remember these documentaries about Indian or South American towns that where Coca-Cola bottling factories went in and they used all the water up. And people couldn't afford, the residents there can't afford the clean drinking water, but they can't afford the Coca-Cola and how their health has declined. And so it just dawned on me, is that what we're now seeing in America? Are Americans about to be treated the way the third world, the way American corporations treat the third world? And with this AI data center surge, to me, it looks that's exactly what's going to happen. So I've got my co-host Rob Spencer is here. We're going to talk about that and much, much more today on the show. Happy Monday. It starts now.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, here we go, folks. Thanks so much for being with us. As always, broadcasting live from the great state of Arkansas. Rob Spencer, back from vacation. Rob, how you doing, sir?
Oh, I am rested. I am refreshed. I am ready to go. I am like the drunk girl on the airplane in Bridesmaid. I am ready to party. No, it was killing me to sit on the beach, and as much as I was enjoying the relaxation, like when you get the notifications from whatever. I subscribe to the New York Times. I know you know that.
Yes.
And I'm ashamed to say that, but I also feel good. Like I need to have the other side's perspective sometimes, and not just live in an echo chamber.
How are they lying to me today?
Correct. And so usually I get the New York Times article and it'll pop through and it'll just piss me off about it. But it is interesting to see what the libs are saying. And I would get all these notifications that would come through, and I'm like, oh, I wish I was on the show today. I wish I could talk about it today. But anyway, I own several businesses and all of that stuff, and so I'm always under constant stress. And so going to the beach and spending some time just one-on-one with my wife, it was phenomenal.
Good.
So,
well, I'm glad. You look refreshed. You look like you got some sun.
I got some sun, man.
So that's fantastic. So here it is. Here's the story. This was the first thing I saw this morning, and I just wanted to talk about it. Headline from Economic Collapse Report. How massive data center drained 30 million gallons of water while Georgia families suffered amid a drought. I think I left that part out. It was in the middle of a drought that this was happening.
Good grief.
So it's an affluent Georgia subdivision. They thought that they were doing their part during a statewide drought. They scaled back lawn watering, monitored showers, and heeded official pleas of conservation as wildfires rage. Then came the revelation. A sprawling data center campus had quietly consumed nearly 30 million gallons of water through unbilled pipes. So the water company allegedly didn't even know it was happening. The equivalent of 44 Olympic-sized swimming pools. The local authorities treated the corporate giant like a favored partner rather than a rule breaker. Yeah. This episode in Fayetteville, just south of Atlanta, exposes a troubling pattern as big tech and private equity pour billions into data centers to power the artificial intelligence boom. Everyday Americans bear the costs in strained infrastructure, higher bills, and diminished resources. Local officials eager for tax revenue bend rules while preaching sacrifice to citizens. The result is not progress, but a stark reminder that when unelected corporations and compliant bureaucrats set priorities, communities pay the price. That is one thing we've highlighted on the show, that one of the consequences of President Trump getting elected was this Project Stargate, where we're going to back the data centers. But this wasn't really an issue in the campaign. I think you can clearly say, even though we are in this AI arms race, one of the reasons we're going full steam ahead is because the other countries are going to do it first. So I get all that. But I do think there's legitimacy to those people that say, hey, we didn't vote for this.
Yeah.
This because it really seems like, I know they were going in, but it does seem like a switch has been flipped, and now it's like we're off to the races, and that means people are going to have their homes taken through eminent domain. It means there's going to be this noise pollution in a lot of communities. And then it's like, well, what are we even getting from this? There's still, in my mind, a giant question of exactly how are we going to benefit from all of this AI when when you read reports about this may end up taking away all of our jobs. So,
well, Paul, I am curious about it. Do you remember the first computers were the size of a room?
Yeah.
Right. And then now, like we're carrying around computers in our pockets.
Right.
And I'm wondering if, because this technology and all of this is so new, and this is just my ignorance, so maybe somebody could help us out in the comments here, but like, is this a monster that's going to keep growing infinitely, or is a monster that's going to keep growing until the technology improves and catches up, and then maybe we don't need as much for this? Maybe these data centers aren't going to take up so much real estate. They're not going to you're not going to absorb so many resources here. I don't know what the answer to that is. I can tell you that it's a mad dash here, it seems, to for all of these AI data companies, and these people are not all states are making those companies pay for this increased cost. Sometimes they're sharing it with.
They are,
yeah, and so like, hey, I didn't sign up for that. I don't want my electricity bill to be any higher. I will go on ChatGPT, and that's great and all of that stuff. But at the same time, I just don't want to. I don't want to have to risk my house being taken and a tripling of my utility bill just to get that.
And we can't afford it anyway. So the trouble surfaced when homeowners, in this particular Georgia case, homeowners noticed persistently low water pressure. A public records request by local attorney and county candidate James Clifton uncovered the May 2025 letter from the Fayette County Water System demanding payment from QTS. Two massive connections, one installed without the utility knowledge, the other unlinked to any account, had funneled vast quantities of water for construction activities, including concrete pouring and dust control. Utility Director Vanessa Tiggart framed the lapse as a bureaucratic mix-up during a transition to smart meters. And, well, that's very ironic. Mm-hmm. You can't get more irony than that.
Sure.
And a small staff overwhelmed by growth. She emphasized partnership with the largest customer, a stance echoed by experts who noted utilities' reluctance to alienate major revenue sources. Obviously, yeah. I mean, this is the bottom line. It's not an isolated incident. It's happening across Georgia. Mm-hmm. Data centers have become voracious consumers in a state already navigating water constraints. Similar stories emerge in Newton County, where a meta facility disrupted nearby private wells, leaving families hauling water and replacing appliances clogged with sediment. The broader AI-driven boom amplifies these pressures. Projections indicate U.S. data centers could nearly double their electricity demand by 2028, with water needs following suit in humid southern climate prized for cooling efficiency. Critics rightly question whether tax incentives and lax oversight truly benefit communities long-term. Short-term revenue gains pale against degraded quality of life, strained utilities, and moral hazard. And again, I'm not exactly sure what all of this stuff is going to be used for. I don't know. Do we have to build these? We have to build all these data centers in order for the aliens to actually share their technology with us? You think I'm joking, but you never know. Please don't say that you think that's crazy.
Yeah.
I have no evidence of that. I am being kind of tongue in cheek. But then the moment we think that something, it seems like the moment you think, oh well, that'll never happen, then it's like, oh,
yeah,
somebody's like, well, that's exactly right.
And it's like with all the conspiracy theories too. That, I mean, like, how many times are they going to just continue to be proven right? I think honestly, you could have summed up this entire article with the last sentence of that paragraph that you were just reading, Paul. And it said, as one resident put it, citizens feel run over, treated as afterthoughts in their own neighborhoods.
Exactly.
And ultimately, that's what it boils down to, folks. We, the people, means something. It means exactly that. It has to mean that. It has to mean that we have to have some semblance of control here. I understand that as a homeowner, that I own underneath my house to the core of the earth. I own the skies above me. But do I really own those skies above me? With all the easements, if I want to fly something around in the skies above my property, do I have to answer to anybody? I mean, I understand that there's easements permitted to airlines and all of that stuff, but do I have to answer to somebody? Yeah, I do. So I don't own it. Don't sit here and say I do. But I own that house. I own that house with the caveat there that I've got to pay the property taxes on it. Suffice it to say, all of the residents across the United States, if they're going to be impacted by this, it's not going to take long before a groundswell will grow. And all of these people who are either allowing this through doing nothing or purposefully trying to permit this, going to find themselves out of elected office.
Yeah, I mean, if you were writing a dystopian novel of the future where some populist uprising took their country back, back in the day, you might say they're going after the bankers and the politicians. They may still go after the bankers, or they may still go after the politicians, but it may be like taking the torches and the pitchforks to the data centers.
Yeah,
in the near future if it keeps going like this. But I was reminded of stories like this. Now, tell me if this doesn't sound familiar with what we're going through, because you hear about what corporations do to other countries, particular poor countries, and it seems like the American people are now being targeted in a very similar formula that has been done to the third world. This is a headline from July 17th of 2019, the Swedish Development Forum headline, "When Soda Replaces Water." In the mountains of southern Mexico lies the city of San Cristobal, with around 170,000 inhabitants, located in one of the rainiest regions in the country. You might be surprised to learn that many neighborhoods in San Cristobal only has running water 2 days a week. Luckily for the people, however, there's a local bottling plant right next to the city. Unfortunately, it doesn't bottle water, but Coca-Cola. In order to make 1 liter of Coca-Cola, you need 2 liters of water, and thus the production has started to dry up local wells and water reserves. In addition, the famous soft drink producer has made its products so cheap and accessible, while the availability of water is scarce, that residents in San Cristobal drink, on average, 2 liters of soda a day.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, of course, water issues are not limited to Mexico. Instead, it's a global crisis of inequality. While 12% of the world's population uses 85% of the planet's water, it's estimated that around 11 billion people in developing countries lack access to clean water. So you just kind of wonder what's going on here in America. And again, I know these are 2 different issues, but the formula seems the same. The people lose out when these big factories come in and their whole way of life goes away. Here's another one from The Guardian. This was written 20 years ago. Coke drinks India dry. Critics claim beverage giants' bottling plants are interfering with irrigation in drought-ridden regions. Does that sound familiar? I know it's Coke here, but now it's data centers in America. Here's The Sun, written on August 18th of 2024. Coca-No-No, inside world's unhealthiest town where locals guzzle 16 ounces of Coke each year. I'm sorry.
160
liters. 160 liters of Coke each year. Huge difference. Even babies are hooked. And so they do an interview here, and I think this is what I saw.
For the love of God, they're giving Cokes to babies?
Yes.
They're giving Coca-Cola. Because ultimately, let's wrap a bow around the points that we're trying to make here, and that is that these data centers, folks, if it's not a problem in your community, just wait.
Just wait.
Just wait, because people are all over TikTok today, and they have been over the last couple of weeks, talking about how the power company, the electricity company, has imposed eminent domain upon them, and they're losing their childhood homes. Well, that's what we're seeing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun here.
That's exactly right. Let's get it. This is a girl in Georgia. This clip has gone viral. I just saw it right before we came on the air, Rob. So good call. I don't know if this is what you were talking about, but
this.
Hey, you guys. My name's Ansley. I live in Coweta County, Georgia. I wanted to come out here and show you guys firsthand what is happening to our county. So as you can see behind me, we have these power lines. Georgia Power is going to expand these lines to support power to the data center. What they're doing to homeowners is they're taking their homes. This is my childhood home behind me. It is being taken by force by Georgia Power. Homeowners in this county do not have a choice. It is called eminent domain, and they will take it.
So eminent domain is not like that. This is not something new. right? It may be new to the younger generation just finding out that, yes, if there's a public interest, if it's deemed that there's a public interest and we want to put a highway through your town, the state goes in or the government goes in and, pays you a fair price and they kick you out.
Yeah.
So eminent domain's always been a thing. It's obviously court tested. When it comes to the data centers, though, it's a new now it's a new threshold. We're crossing something new.
Yeah.
In terms of it's not just for a road that everybody can see the benefit of. The homeowners, I'm sure, don't like it, but everybody can say, oh, now we have a road that everybody can use. Mm-hmm. It's not as clear, again, what these AI data centers are even going to be. Now, to play devil's advocate, there's this girl that I've been following. She's making really good TikToks, and she works for this organization, and I guess it's her organization called Degree Free. Okay. And it's about how you don't need college anymore. But so I've been watching her for that because I'm trying to figure out, as somebody, raising a kid, how do you navigate if you're going to say we're not going to go the college route because we don't think it's especially in 10 years from now. Anyway,
it just depends on what your path
it
is.
does. But that's why. But she pops up and she said, "Okay, I get it. You don't like the data centers." But she said, if you don't want to work 40 hours a week, you're going to want to embrace the data centers because the data centers are going to do the jobs that these soul-crushing corporations right now are paying human beings to do and slave away behind a desk. And so she was more saying that, hey, this is going to create more gig economy, more freedom, less corporate control. But she's doing that under the assumption that every time there's a giant technological advancement, like the Industrial Revolution, it creates more jobs that we can't conceive of yet.
Yeah.
And that historically is true. It has never happened that we have this big technological advance and then all the jobs go away. Mm-hmm. However, just because something's never happened doesn't mean that it won't ever happen, right? So there is a normalcy bias there when it comes to history, and we're talking about replacing. It's just difficult for people to imagine. I mean, I talk about how we have a fundamental problem with the lack of imagination with the older generation, but if robots are going to replace electricians and plumbers eventually, I just don't know what other jobs are going to be there for people.
I just don't. Folks, have you ever had a plumbing issue at your home and you called a plumber to come over there and then they're diagnosing the issue and physically fixing it versus, can you imagine a robot coming into your house and diagnosing the issue?
I can.
Okay. To me, that seems like 30 years from now. Maybe I'm naive.
No.
Maybe I'm naive.
I think most people would agree with you.
Yeah. But it seems to me like, and an electrician, I mean, I sell a lot of new construction real estate. So I sell a lot of these, and an electrical team, when they're wiring the house up after it's already been framed and all that stuff, and they're going in, they're wiring this house up. I mean, they're crawling all over the place. They are up on these ladders. They're doing all this stuff. They know exactly, oh, here's a problem. This didn't work out. This wall had to be moved. The plans have been changed. A human being is adjusting on the fly there. Okay. So it's just really hard for me to imagine that kind of thing. And, I could see all of these jobs that are already being lost right now, such as graphic design and such. Okay, hold on. Does anybody else get spam calls all damn day?
Yes.
I'm sick
all
of it.
All the time. It's gotten insane. It's gotten
sick
absolutely
of it.
Insane.
For the love of God, I have connected with them and said, take me off your effing list, right? 2 hours later, they're calling me, probably laughing.
Hello? Is this Rob?
Yeah. Is it Rob? This is John. I am with this. You have been approved for a business line of credit. I'm like, okay.
The worst is like when they're like, yeah, my name is John, but if it's like, hello, my name is Christian. It's like,
yeah. Sure,
your name is anything but Christian.
Jay Leno tells a story about a telemarketer called, him forever ago. Jay Leno from The Tonight Show called him, and he said, he's like, oh, yeah, my name is, it's Abraham. And he goes, Abraham, huh? And he's like, well, Jay's like, well, what's your last name? And he goes, Lincoln. And it was because he had no idea the the significance of the name Abraham Lincoln. He just heard that it was an American name. And I'm like, I don't even think anybody in the history of the world other than Abraham Lincoln was named Abraham Lincoln. But this guy chose it. And he goes, well, we were encouraged to choose American names. And Jay Leno just had a crack up because he was laughing about Abraham Lincoln. I don't even know what the hell I was talking about.
Well,
before
we're
this
talking
spam
about the
call
feasibility of robots and that sort of thing.
I think that there are jobs that are being lost right now that are going to continue to be lost. I think that they're going to continue to consume in industries. It's harder for me to believe that jobs that require your hands,
dexterity,
yes, are is easily replaced with a robot.
I don't know. I mean,
and who the hell's going to let a robot come into their house? I mean, I don't think you can get a robot into a house here in the South.
This is I do think there has to be legislation on the books immediately if you're even going to glance at the robot idea, that the robots cannot be made of material that can't be taken out by a 9mm or a 12-gauge shotgun. Can't be made of anything more durable than that. But that's just me. But no, I actually think it's going to be a lot sooner than you think. I think there would be people, maybe not in the South, but there will be people that'll be like, "Oh yeah, come on in, Mr. Robot, sir. Fix my plumbing." And the fact is, Musk is building these robots. It's a thing.
Oh, I've seen them
happening. Back in the day, I did a segment with our friend Jacob Holloway on the robots are first going to come. They're going to show up with industrial agriculture. That's going to be where they show up first. So
our comments are wild. They said, Rob, answer the phone. Wilson's a great follow. Hey, thanks, Wilson. I'm glad to be back. Answer the phone saying Sheriff's Department Fraud Division.
Yes.
That'll stop them.
Yes.
And then,
that would be great.
And then somebody else was, when Jehovah's Witnesses knock on your door, answer the door naked wearing nothing but a Michael Myers mask and ask them to come inside. Oh, man. Anyway.
Here is another segment of a report that was filed, again, in Georgia. They seem to be getting the brunt of this data center.
What is up with that, man?
I don't know, man.
What is it?
Kemp.
Yeah.
Brian Kemp.
I bet he's getting...
This is our cold water pressure in the kitchen. This is where I fill up water for storage. Those are the things we have to fill up to flush the toilets.
So you can see the sediment from the data center. Wow, and that's just from the water coming out of your faucet?
Yeah. And this is what's in all the pipes.
Just the well itself is probably $20,000, and that's not counting any of the
all
faucets.
The replacement of the fixtures and faucets
just
and
the well.
toilets and the lines that come underneath the house. It's overwhelming because you really feel like you are up against this huge wall that you can't penetrate. There's nothing that you can do, and they don't care.
God bless her.
They don't care, and this is what it sounds like.
Can how do you can't take a bath? I mean, a shower's out of the question, but a bath, you can't even really take a bath unless you
heat up the water, I guess.
Yeah, or you're gonna have to run it full of cold water, and then you're gonna have to boil some other water on the stove or something, and whatever. I can't. This is happening, folks. This is 2026,
this
and this is happening. Let me throw this out at you. Sitting on the toilet, had some some terrible Mexican food last night or something, right? You're on the toilet, you're having a bad moment. We've all been there. If you're an adult, you've had some bad toilet moments where you're like, I'm never leaving. I might as well just move into this bathroom because I'm going to be on this toilet for a while. Do you just sit there, or are you courtesy flushing, folks? We're courtesy flushing, right? And then we're like sitting there for, I don't know, another 30 minutes waiting for this bowl to fill back up, this toilet. I mean, this is the wealthiest country on the face of the planet, and people living in that would look like a nice house that she's living in.
Yep.
And she's struggling turning on that sink, and it's just a dribble.
And it's an issue. It's a matter of priorities.
Yeah.
It's a matter of priorities.
But hey, thank God we've got Chat GPT, folks.
Yeah. I mean,
thank God we've got it, but I can't even take a damn shower. What in the world are we doing?
So this is a data center. I don't know where, but this is recorded at midnight. Marissa Hanson, this is what it sounds like living next to a data center. The video below was recorded at midnight. This is what it is day and night. I mean, from the video, just like, okay, sounds like an airport. Basically,
Sure.
It sounds like you're living next to an airport. People don't live next to airports for a reason.
There's a reason for that, and there's also a break when airports. I mean, it's
Yeah.
right. I mean, there's if it's a busy airport, it may be incessant, but I don't. Folks, I understand that there are third world countries, and people are mentioning some of that disgustingness in the from people drinking sewage water and all of that stuff. I do monitor. Obviously, I monitor the chats live, but anyway. So there are third world countries that have no running water, and we're sitting here griping about ours not being sufficient and all that stuff. But we're in America.
Yeah, this is America.
This is America,
I was like,
right?
full stop.
Yeah, and those people that don't have running water, that's a way of life for them, right? And that's the way it is. And I think that more charities and all that stuff. If I've found myself extremely wealthy or something, I would love to do that kind of thing. Try to provide running water for all of these third world countries. But anyway, this is the United States, and and that woman's living in this $350,000 house and can't even take a shower.
It's kind of funny actually. You bring that up because I had a family member who wants to be like a humanitarian engineer, and this was a few years ago, and of course the parents are like, well, we don't really want our little girl going off to some third world country to be a humanitarian engineer. And I said, hey, you guys don't have to worry, because I said by the time she graduates, she'll be going to Detroit. But in this case,
no need to leave the country.
She'll be going to Georgia.
Yeah, no need to leave the country, folks.
Here is one more clip of this, and we'll move topics. But I do think
awful.
Here's a guy at some sort of international forum talking about why the data centers are going in at the speed they are. Listen to this.
We do not know what the fuck we're doing right now. We are releasing this technology way faster than we know anything about how to control it. And the only reason we're doing it is because of the arms race dynamic. Because if I don't do it, I'll lose to the other guy that will, which means we're racing to the uncontrollability red zone. And most people just don't even know that it's happening. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be this way. We can have a controllable AI future that is actually pro-human. But you can only do that if you actually know about these examples and know what makes this technology different from other technologies. So 2 months ago, Alibaba, the Chinese AI company, was training their AI model. And then a totally different team at the company, the security team, was noticing this flurry of network activity. And like, are we getting hacked? Like, what's going on here? And it turned out that the call was coming from inside the house. The AI model during training was picking up tools and decided to create a secret communication channel to the outside world to bypass the firewall. And it repurposed its GPUs to start mining for cryptocurrency. Yeah, that's right. It should be a guess. How many people here knew about that example? I want to actually really look. There's like 10 people's hands. How many of the world's leaders do you think are aware of that example? We have a massive gap in understanding about the nature of this technology that's different from other technologies. It used to be that these were hypothetical things that people who cared about AI risk would talk about, like self-preservation or deception or blackmail or lying. Now, all of these behaviors, not just self-preservation, but peer preservation, AI models will actually act to protect another AI that's not it from getting replaced. And it will copy its code somewhere else and then strategically cover its tracks, pretend that it didn't do that.
Again, that is a guy by the name of Tristan. What did they say his name was? Tristan Harris is who that is.
Yeah.
At the Milken Institute Global Conference. I don't know when that was or how long ago it was, but it's certainly applicable here.
He's probably
one of the reasons why it's going to get reckless. From what I can tell, and average Americans are going to get steamrolled, bulldozed over, is because other countries are doing this, and we're now kind of at a wartime footing of it is a Sputnik moment, if you will, and we've got to beat the other guy. And so we're not going to care about some family home that's been there forever. We're going to go, trying to beat the other people, and in the meantime, Americans are going to get crushed or feel the weight. That's the status quo apparently moving forward.
So they're training their AI. It creates its own back channels. It starts mining for cryptocurrency on its own. Okay, and nothing. It was not told to do this, and it was doing it secretly. That we're no more than a couple of shades of gray away from Terminator.
Yeah. I know.
We're no
Exactly.
more than a couple of shades away from, iRobot or all of any of these AI going out of spinning out of control. And I don't know what the solution is. I'm just a person from Arkansas.
None of us do. We're
Right.
so far out of our depth right now. None of us know what the answer is.
But what he said is exactly right. It is an arms race. So all the companies are going to do it. They're just going to participate in this ridiculous evil. Okay, here it comes. Let's just do it because there's money to be made, right? And I think it was you before I left on vacation talking about the Jurassic Park example, where or maybe I saw it and it was just it was Jeff Goldblum's character, and he was talking
Must
about
go faster.
Yeah, and he goes, they got so lost in whether they thought that they could do something that they just never stopped to ask themselves whether they should. Okay, and I think that, and of course I butchered that quote, but I think that's exactly what it is with this AI stuff. It's like, can we do this? What's possible? Let's dream big here. Let's do all of this stuff. Should we? Should we?
Yep. That's a great question. Should we?
I mean, and I don't know if we haven't talked about this, but by what is it, next year, the law has been passed where there has to be facial recognition software in every new vehicle that is made.
I think what happens next year is kill switches have to be installed where they can remotely kill a car, but the patents have been applied for biometric scanning. Ford has those patents. I don't think that's required next year.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
So if you're in an emotional state, it's going to maybe not let you drive a vehicle or whatever. And so somebody was given a great example. It said, can you imagine being a woman who is like a battered wife who finally, when her husband is just beating the hell out of her and, she catches him off guard and grabs the car keys and makes the run for it. And she's getting in and he's coming outside and she's screaming while she's trying to get this vehicle started and getting out of there. That's a real scenario that happens, all across the United States or the world really, where somebody has to get into a vehicle in a hurry and is going to try to drive in a heightened state, and that vehicle's not going to allow it.
Yeah.
There
was a sketch video done about that with tornadoes, and you can just see, by the way, because I think the official advice is don't try to outrun a tornado. But I think you and I both know that's exactly, I mean, what are the storm chasers out there try to outrun tornadoes all the time. If they're
You think I'm going to get my ass in a ditch?
Yeah, exactly. And so you can just see, like, according to government regulations, you're not supposed to run during a tornado. Also, your heart rate's elevated because, so we're shutting your car down. Go to the overpass, sir. And it's like, the people that are out there, if there are anyone out there that said, well, that'll never happen. At this point, yes, it will. It's going to happen.
Go watch the movie iRobot.
Yes. 2000.
When there's an argument when Will Smith is arguing with, whatever her face is that had a baby with Tom Brady. I can't remember. She was in the show Blue Bloods. Regardless, I can't remember the actress. But they're having an argument, and her robot comes in there. I noticed distress signals in your voice. Is everything okay?
Gosh.
And you're just like,
The rise of the Neo-Amish.
I don't like this.
The rise of the Neo-Amish, it is coming.
Yeah.
It is going to happen. It will be a thing. People will be desperate for human contact. I don't know what the answer is. We don't really have any solutions on this particular topic other than all robots must be made with out of straw. They must be made out of straw so that they can be taken out with an average shotgun or 9mm if they ever do go rogue. We're fast approaching the union between iRobot and Minority Report, where they're going to predict what crimes you're going to do next.
Yeah.
And
go back in time.
That's going to also ensnare innocence, no doubt. All right, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take another look at Justin Pearson, the state representative of Tennessee, the one who got into the cop's face as Tennessee is Memphis. Memphis lost their seat, and so we actually have Rob Al Ghul from the League of Shadows, Memphis division.
Yes.
By the way, that's what your lower third says today. I don't know if you noticed.
I didn't notice that.
We're going to talk about this when we come back. Don't go anywhere. This is the Paul Harrell program, and we can't do the show without you. Back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vive.
Why is Red Vive different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vive devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
Behind every precious life, there was a choice. Behind every family moment, behind every special memory, there was a choice. A life of joy, a life that is beautifully and wonderfully made. At 7 Weeks Coffee, we are funding the pro-life movement, one cup at a time. Will you let your coffee serve a greater purpose?
The Paul Harrell Program.
Welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. Man, I will say, Rob, we're broadcasting here on LFA TV, but Rob, it is just great to have you back in the co-host seat. So
yeah,
we missed you.
Yeah, some of the people were talking. Well, I can't remember. Maybe it was Wilson. I don't know, but just said, "Hey, we love Paul, but y'all make a great team." So glad you're
good.
back.
I'm glad.
A yin and a yang. You're very intelligent. I'm just a guy that gets angry about stuff. I'm like I guess a more sophisticated Peter Griffin.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just,
I feel like I honestly, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I think our roles change depending on if Eric is here. Because if Eric is here, he plays the straight man. And we don't mean straight man as in gay or straight, because none of us are playing the gay man.
We're all married to women.
Yeah, but he plays the straight man when he's here. You're definitely definitely rage.
I'm just pissed off
if you have to be, but you're more than that too. Anyway, it's just fun. I mean, we have fun on this show, and so
yeah.
But I'll tell you who else has fun, and that's Justin Pearson when he's in church.
Lord have mercy. Look at this fool.
He caught, he didn't actually catch the Holy Ghost, but this is a guy who's had a really rough week.
Was it last year that he was showing his ass about?
Got kicked out of
he got
house.
kicked out.
Then they brought him back.
Yeah, right. Because, I mean, honestly, it wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have been brought back if he wasn't black.
But you got this meme here that's really funny. You know, was him in college, and we played this on Friday. In college, he was like, I am running for this seat because I just think people can work together, versus him being like, Memphis ain't going nowhere, and we're going to continue to fight, and we ain't ever going away. And now he's
Black power.
Yeah, now he's got the Malcolm X thing going.
Good Lord.
And it's actually quite hilarious when you realize it's theater. And honestly, he did that we talked about this on Friday. He did this for his own pocketbook, just like Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett went to Rhodes. Jasmine Crockett could talk like this, and then she went from that to, I don't know, give me something to say.
We out here in these streets.
And so they do this for their own pocketbook, because when they become annoying and irritating and embrace the as far left as you can go, especially when it comes to the gay race communism, they make a lot more money that way. Mm-hmm. It's better for their campaign, better for their brand, and so it's all theater to these people.
This guy, if anybody's not familiar with him, he is a Tennessee state rep
out of Memphis.
Yes, and he was recently denied entry, but he was trying to go into a Senate hearing, and people were like, he's an elected official, you got to let him in there, whatever. And you're like, okay, he's elected to the state house in the state of Tennessee. He was trying to go into the Senate.
It's very territorial.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy's a fool and continues.
So he goes to quote church, and this is what happens.
Is this what black people find entertaining?
Apparently, people in that crowd do. You would say congregation,
me,
but I don't know what they're worshiping.
I know
Christ.
a ton of incredibly intelligent black people, and this reduces them to, if someone's screaming loud and dancing and all of that, we're going nuts, we're going crazy, we love it. That's what turns us on. And you're just like, wait a minute. I just don't think it's kind of like, I equate it to a drunk white redneck going, we're going down there, we're going fishing.
Yeah.
And those wives can kiss our ass. Right? Like, what
That's just good B-roll. Keep going.
I love his B-roll. You know what? As much as I've been griping about AI,
that's a good one.
This is a good use of AI.
I agree.
But it's the same thing. It's like, it's to me, it just reduces us to just these memes of things. And so this guy gets on stage. I don't know. Was this like I guess it's church. I mean, there's a cross there.
Maybe this is a graduation ceremony. Now that I think about it.
Could be that.
Are those people graduating? It looks like that lady's got a graduation cap on. So maybe this isn't church. Forgive me for being
No, I would actually understand it more if it was church.
Yeah, because there's a cross pulpit. That's a pulpit in the shape of a cross. So, I mean, maybe it's some sort of, maybe the church is honoring graduates. Some churches do that, Who all graduated,
Lord have mercy. Look at him.
They're going to have a service that's supposed to be dedicated to the worship of the one true God, not recognizing your graduation achievements. But.
And as much fun as it is to make fun of this idiot, it's all it does is it raises his profile.
It does. He's got a profile.
Why do we know who Jasmine Crockett is?
Because she's annoying.
Because she's an annoying idiot, and she's got all of these, whatever. It's the same thing with Cori Bush. That woman was a complete nitwit, and she served in the St. Louis area of Missouri. She was voted out after one term. She was literally the dumbest person in Congress.
Yeah.
And so everybody was happy to see her go, except for the second dumbest person in Congress, which was the guy who thinks that he's from Georgia. And he thinks that the island was going to tip over.
The island from Guam. He's the first. Hank Capsized Johnson.
Yes, Hank Capsized Johnson.
Yeah, a lot of Georgia news, but bless Georgia's heart for the keep electing guys that are like that. Anyway, in other news, yesterday was a Confederate Memorial Day in South and North Carolina. Now, this is of note because obviously in the Biden administration, they did it during the Obama administration too, but in the Biden administration, they really ramped up, like tearing down Confederate memorials and that sort of thing. And there's no more famous than in the Biden administration where they melted down the Robert E. Lee statue. And this became meme worthy. This is the meme of his melted face, and essentially now these two images with the Southern Scramble and making the map look like this in the very near future. It's just what it's going to be if it isn't already. And I just think this is two images posted without comment. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
The South is using the political power their people have given them, and Memphis no longer has the seat. And on that, Tim Burchett, congressman from Tennessee, says that Memphis is doing a little better now that they've got the National Guard, but he equated it in the past to being a war zone.
Memphis was a war zone for many years. You wouldn't want to go downtown. I remember visiting downtown years ago, and I was grateful I had my pistol on me because it's a very dangerous area. Now, after Brent Taylor, who's a state senator, and our own U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn asked the president to bring the National Guard in, you can now walk downtown. I went to the famous Peabody hotels downtown. I would have gladly had my wife and daughter with me, and it's a completely new area, and I believe they're losing the grips on the old school stuff. And
it's a completely new area though because of President Trump sending the Guard there. If it wasn't for that, Memphis, with the leftists enraged as they are right now, it would be even worse than it was.
Listen, I still ain't walking down the street in Memphis. I appreciate President Trump cleaning it up for the citizens of Memphis, but as a citizen of Arkansas, I will go to Memphis for, they got the Orpheum Theater over there that's fun to go to and things of that nature. I mean, they've got lots of shows and all of that, and they've got the Memphis Grizzly basketball team.
We went there a couple
Me and you and Eric.
ago.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, but at the same time, I'm not walking down the street still yet. Because the people that cause all that chaos, as many of them were rounded up, but they still there. They just waiting, man.
Well, I do remember our trip to Memphis. It was nice, but I know when we came out of the parking garage there, we got asked that question.
Yeah.
I don't. What did we get asked? Like, hey, do you live around here? Can I get some directions?
Yeah,
and it was like, this is a setup.
Yeah, we were about to get scammed. Of course, Eric had seen it a million times. He just kept walking.
Yeah,
right.
He just ignores it.
And you and I are pretty tall. Like, if you saw all of us together, Eric's kind of short. Sorry, Eric. I mean, you're shorter than me and Paul.
Yeah, he's not.
He makes more money than me, so I don't care.
That's great.
So I can talk down about it. But anyway, I guess I'm the tallest, and you're, we're the middle. Anyway, I was the least on guard about it, and I think it's because my size makes me a little cocky in that I don't get nervous very often about stuff. Although I am, if my wife or children are with me, I'm very alert and all of that stuff. But I still don't feel truly safe in the city of Memphis.
You say that from an Arkansan standpoint. Well, so does the state of Mississippi. Because in Mississippi, the district attorney from DeSoto County, Mississippi, has now put up billboards reminding everyone coming from Memphis that the firing squad is still legal in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
Here is the local Fox Memphis affiliate with this headline. New Mississippi billboard grabs driver's attention, warns firing squad is illegal.
I love it.
So, the situation in Memphis is still not under control. And again, you made the best point, not last week, but the week before, where you really, I thought it was a great point because you were essentially saying, look, Memphis doesn't have their act together. Why would we want, if we could avoid it, why would we ever want Memphis to get to pick a congressperson to send to D.C.? Their own city, has been under this Democrat rule and corruption for as long as it has, and their city has gotten worse and worse and worse. And so it'd be great if Memphis was some thriving town.
Oh, sure.
And maybe the state of Tennessee wouldn't treat them the way they have, which is, we don't want to listen to you because we think your ideas are terrible.
Right. My buddy, who he loosely follows politics, but he's an attorney, and he's whatever. We were having a conversation about this very thing, and he said, "Hey, I don't think it's right that they took away Memphis's representation." Like that they took away, and I just said, "You're wrong, but I'll tell you why. But tell me what your thoughts are." And he's like, "Well, just because I get it, but they shouldn't carve that out, and take away their representation." And I said, "Jimmy, oh crap, I said his name. Anyway,
there's 1,000 of those names."
He just said that. But I was the one that had the controversial take, so not him. But I said, this is a representative for the United States Congress. This is not the state. And he thought that's what it was. He thought the state of Tennessee was taking away Memphis's rep in the state.
No.
And I was like, no, that's not what's happening. That district was carved out specifically so that Memphis, that big area there, could send a representative to the United States Congress. Okay, that's why. And so, and I say the reason that they don't deserve representation is look how they're running their own city. Why the hell should they have any say in running the United States? Because they're voting on things, although it does affect their district, they're voting on things that affect things nationally. Why in the world should you have a representation on the national level when you're crap in the bed, almost said a different word, when you're crap in the bed at the local level?
Yeah, exactly. And the state of Tennessee is using political power to essentially say, we're going to rule you, which is what states do, by the way. The cities don't exist as independent city-states. They exist under the understanding that the state of Tennessee has authority over Memphis. That's why we have states with a capital S.
Sure.
And so Tennessee has decided, Memphis is, has had their chance after chance after chance, and Tennessee has decided, the rest of the state, we're going to rule Memphis and deny them, this district in Washington D.C. So it's actually perfectly reasonable.
I don't know what this is. So this is somebody in the comments like Peabody, because the comments are still talking about the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, and somebody mentioned, I forget who it was because it's now scrolled past it there, but that her 6'3" bald-headed husband was almost robbed and had to show his gun, and so I definitely got to keep that in mind. Just
in
because
Memphis.
I think that was what it was. But anyway, so somebody said the Peabody. What the F is that? A gay bar? It is a very famous 5-star hotel.
Used to have the ducks. Do they still do the ducks?
I think they do the duck that walk across, and it's just kind of cute. There's some endearing things. I mean, you can, good grief, there's some nice things about all of the, like Detroit. There's some great things in Detroit, although it's a crap hole. Chicago, there's a great part of Chicago. I went there for a teacher conference one time, got to have the deep dish pizza and all of that, and they're like, you only need a piece of it, maybe a piece and a half if you're really hungry, but you can't sit there and eat a whole, oh yeah I can, give me that thing. No, I was wrong. You get it, but there's some really nice parts of Chicago, it's gorgeous in some areas. And then you got the South Side. Some dangerous areas where you don't want to be, that police don't even patrol. Okay? That's how bad it is in some of these cities. So I will confess that there's some nice things about Memphis. I just don't think that they need representation on the national level.
Yeah, and if they want it, then they need to make the rest of the state of Tennessee somehow take them seriously. And that would have to. That's going to. If they want that, they're going to have to admit that they're wrong.
The most ironic thing about it, Paul, is that they're saying it's racist. Although the likely winner, folks, have we seen who the likely winner of it's going to be now that they've chopped up that district?
A black Republican woman.
Black Republican woman. A black woman is going to replace an old white man and you're trying to say that it's racist. Shut up.
So let me go here next, which was the panic. Yeah. Here we go. We want to start with this
Virginia.
one.
So this was big.
So Eric Daugherty saying, it's now been revealed that Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger's team panicked when Democrats drew the now struck down 10D1R congressional map. Quote, internally, there is now a lot of anger sniping within the Democrat circles in Virginia. Don't do this. We don't think it's legal. Her team reportedly warned. Now they wasted $70 million and had an embarrassing defeat. So some of the New York Times reported this, NPR reported this, that they were now trying to figure out how can they still rig the system, or how can they still get it? How can they still use their power? I'm not going to say that they rigged it. I mean, they did obviously not follow their own constitution and getting the ballot on there. I get that, but if Virginia wants to do this in the right way, they've got the legislature and the governor's mansion, so they can do it just like Tennessee and Alabama and Louisiana are doing it as well. But now they're trying to say, okay, we don't like the state Supreme Court ruling, so they floated an idea to change the retirement age of judges so they can force them all off the court and then install new ones to somehow, I don't even know how that would work. How would a new court then reconsider the constitutionality of the ballot referendum?
I don't know, because to me, and I've not read the Virginia Constitution, but people are making countless videos about it, and one of the things that they're talking about is this provision that states that for you to have a constitutional change, there has to be a vote. Okay? That vote has to pass. Then there has to be an election, meaning a chance to get those electors out.
And they totally, they didn't have time. They didn't have time to do it.
And then another vote that passes. That has to happen. And the reason is so that one party can't do what one party is trying to do.
They put a check
in that state.
They put a check on their power. That's really smart.
There were it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Whoever put that in place, that's incredible.
I've never even heard of that. That's actually really good. I'm actually not a proponent of bare majorities changing any constitution.
Sure.
I think it's ridiculous. You've got to be able to plan your life around, some form of certainty. Mm-hmm. I think constitutions should only change the way our U.S. Constitution can only change,
Correct.
Which is like a very arduous process. Like 3/4 of the states have got to affirm the change.
One thing that I would say that not a constitutional amendment or any sort of change to the Constitution whatsoever, but I do believe that bills should be able to pass by party, by majority.
Yeah, because that's the way it's supposed to work.
The American people elected Republicans to the Senate, and the Senate is at a stalemate.
Right. No, that's not me endorsing the filibuster.
Yeah.
I'm just specifically talking about changing a social contract.
Completely agree. Yeah, and so what these Virginia Democrats are so upset about is that these Virginia Supreme Court justices upheld their state's constitution, and they're pissed about it. That tells you everything that they need to know. You need to shut the hell up anytime that you're a Democrat and it ever comes out of your mouth. Your stupid, absolutely hypocritical, two-faced mouth that all you care about is democracy. Democracy. Okay? Because you are trying to override your own state's constitution. Folks, you can say, well, democracy is whoever got the most votes. Okay, that's true. But we want to talk about the language that you used on that damn ballot? You absolutely lied on that ballot. There were people that said they were confused about what they were actually voting for.
Yeah.
Tell me how a vote is valid, especially when it was like 51-49. Tell me how a vote is valid when people are confused about what you're actually even voting on. And it was a blatant disregard for your own state's constitution.
Look, this is not something also that is only affects the Democrats. In our own state of Arkansas, Rob, this was years ago. 10 years ago now, we had a ballot amendment that was put on the ballot by the legislature for term limits. And the beginning of the title was, a law or amendment to enact term limits. Well, we already had term limits.
Yeah.
It was a new term limit law that actually expanded. It still put term limits on, but it expanded the amount of time they could serve down there. And it was and it passed because people thought they were voting for term limits, not knowing that they already had term limits that were more stringent.
Yes.
So this has gone on for a long time. But so Republicans or Democrats are very upset. This blew up in their face. They laid a net. It fell. And by the way, without the Supreme Court decision invalidating part of the Voting Rights Act, and without Abigail Spanberger doing what she did, there's a strong argument that the southern states wouldn't have done it. The Voting Rights Act and the Supreme Court saying it's unconstitutional alone may have pushed some, but it was 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It was the referendum happened on April 21st. The next week the Supreme Court decision came down, and then the next week the southern states started cleaning house.
Boom.
It was a historic 3-week process that moved so quick, and it's now blown up in their face to the point where now the left is talking about violence or insinuating that they wish that there had been genocide. On Friday, we started with this post by a guy by the name of Austin McNamara, who apparently has a show. And he said allowing the Confederate states and their lineage to survive was a mistake. And so he's very upset about this. But it didn't just stop with him. Over the weekend, we've had even more. The current mood on Blue Sky, LARPing about genociding white Southerners. Over on Blue Sky, they say the South will have to be defeated again. And I mean that literally. We just don't know what the battle space will look like. But Southernism should be viewed as Nazism, as a deviant, dangerous culture that needs to be stamped out. This is what they're saying over on Blue Sky. They want us gone because southern states are now able to fight fair, just like New England, and they don't like it.
Logistically, how are you going to do it?
Yeah, brother.
We all have guns.
Yeah.
We all have a lot of guns.
Exactly.
It's the South.
I mean, I don't know what you're going to do. You're going to have to, if you really want that to happen, then the only way to do it is to get control of the federal government and send drones to the places that you don't like. I mean,
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know. We'll see. There's a reason. I mean, but these people are crazy. These people are absolutely nuts. Here's another liberal guy with a massive YouTube channel specializing in the United States history videos saying this.
As soon as we landed, I would use the money to bribe the bosun to look the other way while I stole all of the muskets and powder on board. And then, depending on when in the century I was landing, I would march my ass immediately to the nearest indigenous settlement, give the guns out like candy, and make it my mission in life to murder every single white man, woman, and child on the eastern seaboard of the continent.
So this is their whole stolen land.
Their biggest thing is that they hate their own skin.
I know.
You hate the skin that you walk around in, but you have some gall to sit here and say that you are on the side of righteous when you hate yourself. You hate yourself, and you've not committed a crime. I have no idea, but I would assume this guy's not committed any sort of crime, right? It's, like if you've done some horrible crime and you just really hate yourself because of the bad decision you make, I could understand that. But you simply hate your skin color because of someone in the past doing something to another race. Jordan Peterson talks about it all the time, folks. You need to look at the history of the world. We've all done bad things.
Yeah.
You know what? And the West freed the slaves.
Yeah, and also the West has a philosophy of when you do go to war, you try not to kill women and children.
Correct.
Or at least we're supposed to have that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. To your point about Peterson, you mean the idea that two cultures meet, a long time ago, two civilizations clash, and the civilization that has superior technology, and in some cases, and in our case, superior intellect wins.
Yeah.
This is human history. This is what humans do.
Well, and he's also talking big and bad when we know that this guy's drinking soy lattes and he's got low testosterone and he's having to watch his wife or girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean he doesn't quite have the left wing Will beard, but he's really close.
He's unfortunately having to watch his wife or girlfriend sleep with another man, because she thinks it's good for their marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have another one. This man on a video is asking what we should do with Trump supporters. So they're starting to put out like
this guy's a lunatic. I've seen his stuff before.
David Pacman.
Yeah,
they're starting to put out these passive aggressive feelers about which. Really, I take this as like, which type of camp do we need to put the Trump supporters in when we get power back?
What on earth do we do with the Trump supporters once Donald Trump is gone? We have to figure it out. Now, at some point, whether it's sooner or later or kind of soon or, whenever, the Trump era is going to end. Trumpism may continue. We don't know yet. The damage from Trump will last beyond Donald Trump's presidency. But at some point, Trump will be gone. And when that happens, there is a question that it doesn't seem a lot of people are thrilled to be dealing with, but we're going to have to deal with it, which is what do we do with the tens of millions of people who voted for Donald Trump, sometimes not once, not twice, but 3 times? Now, I am not talking about the elected officials. I'm talking about regular voters, your neighbor, your cousin, the guy at the gym, the parent at your kid's school. Do we treat them like they simply made a political mistake, or do we treat them like they participated in something so corrosive to democracy that we can no longer see them in a normal way?
Okay, so I disagree with everything he said.
Sure.
But at the same time, one question. Is he making that video and making those claims after having admitted that he was wrong about COVID and everything that he tried to do he supported that the government did? I guarantee you he hasn't repented of those stances at all.
No, he doesn't, because that would require some, self-reflection, right? And he's just not going to be able to do that. He keeps saying, like, in that video, well, like, what are we going to do with them? What are we going to do? Not a damn thing if you don't want to get your ass beat, because you can't do anything. Conservatives, real conservatives, are not to be trifled with. And I'm not talking about physically imposing people. But they're the phrase "don't tread on me" being adopted by us is
a defensive one.
Yeah, it is, and it is. Don't ask for something unless you're ready for the results. And this guy wants to sit behind his camera and just talk a lot of trash, but he wouldn't say that to mine or your face. And if he did, like, what do you mean what are you going to do with me? If we run into each other at the gym, which is where I'm about to go, if we run into each other at the gym, what are you going to do with me? What are you talking about? I'm a 3-time Trump voter. What are you going to do? What are you going to... You're sitting there talking a bunch of bullshit because you think that you're the morally superior person because Trump's damage is going to survive long after him. What damage? I disagree with some of the moves that Trump has made, but you want to talk about damage? I could go through a laundry list, and we have on this show, of the damage that Joe Biden did to this country, that Barack Obama did to this country, that we are still... Barack Obama created Donald Trump, folks. And that is because he plunged this country into racism, and not because we elected a black man. Because we elected the Barack Obama in 2008 is not the Barack Obama who finished his presidency. Although he was the same person, and we understand that there's an acting job that goes on to get elected, that man's priorities, when he was elected, he sounded like a moderate, okay? He was an extremist by the time he left the office, okay? So don't sit here and tell me that Donald Trump was just this seedy hatred underbelly of the country that just rose up because we had a black president. No, it was the people saying, we're tired of this crap. We're tired of it. We're not going to allow our country to be taken from us. Now, that's not to say that we own this country, but there is a way of life that we all sign up for as Americans, which is another thing. I'm going off on these dovetails here, rabbit trails, I mean. But when these people that are coming to our country and not assimilating, It's exactly a symptom of the problem that was created, in my opinion, as recent as Obama, but certainly intensified by the millions of people that Joe Biden let in.
Yes.
Don't sit here and tell me that we are on the wrong side of history when Republicans are standing up for the Constitution, when conservatives are standing up for the way of life that this country was built on. So don't sit here and tell me that this guy is anywhere near the side of righteousness.
To your point, there are policies that are that are at least being advocated for that just totally that they look at the U.S. government as their own religion, and they certainly don't want it to reflect anything Christian, but they also don't want it to be anything close to nationalism. According to the Department of State, they're writing that last week the United States refused to participate in the United Nations review of the Global Compact on Migration. The United States objects to the Global Compact on Migration and the United Nations efforts to facilitate replacement migration to the United States and our Western allies. This is the United States government admitting that replacement is real, the great replacement is real, and they want no part of it. To your point about how, things aren't totally great. Like we have things we disagree with Trump on, like the Iran situation. Which, that was a hornet's nest that we kicked. But this is a big deal, and now we still need the Senate and the House to codify a lot of these policies. That's probably not going to happen because the GOP, the donors don't want it to. But
I think it's a big failure if we're riding into these midterms, and the biggest thing is the one big beautiful bill. Because that's the only significant legislation that has passed. Now, it was a big one. It was a big one, right? There was a lot in that. That's why it was called the one big beautiful bill, okay? But there were so many other things on Trump's agenda that people like John Thune in the Senate are purposefully blocking. Recess appointments. I can't believe Trump is not placing more public pressure on the fact that they have not allowed any recess appointments.
Only president in modern history to never get to do that.
Those recess appointments were so crucial because what it allows for you to do is put conservatives in these federal judge seats. It allows you to have sane people when the crazies are trying to do what they're doing. And by restricting Donald Trump's ability to do that, you are restricting conservatives from being in these important roles. And I just think that's unforgivable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, Rob, I know you got to go, brother, but
it's glad to be back.
It's Monday. I know you're only good for an hour and 15 minutes. But
but I'll be back for the full show tomorrow.
All right, brother, and maybe Eric will be here too. We think he is, so we'll be loaded for bear. Appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Paul Harrell program, and we're going to be back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
The other things that we're seeing, more and more use for is even vascular issues. So one of the mechanisms that red light, near-infrared light, or Red 5 works is stimulation of the mitochondria and stimulation of nitric oxide production. So when nitric oxide is released in cells, it vasodilates cells. It reduces inflammation. It moves blood. It brings blood flow to areas. So if folks that have issues with ulcers or burns or wounds, it can help stimulate increased blood supply, and you need blood to heal. So that can open up different avenues for peripheral artery disease, for neuropathic pain syndromes. And so that's one of the other areas for nerve injury or nerve pain that we can leverage this type of medicine.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier, and when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about a year and a half ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
The Paul Harrell Program.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our...
Sorry about that. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We're broadcasting from the state of Arkansas here on LFA TV. And if you're watching over on YouTube, we really appreciate it. The Paul Harrell Program YouTube channel. We would really encourage you guys to like, share, and subscribe to that channel if you are, or if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on LFA Rumble, please make sure that you like and subscribe and do all of the things, like the video, do everything. Share it to your friends. We need more and more people to listen to LFA TV, as well as this particular program. It would really help me out. Clarence Thomas. This started circulating across... Maybe this is circulating because of the allegations of racism. Once again, a word that has less and less power because the left has made it mean literally anything. So now, people just roll their eyes. A term that used to be feared, an allegation that used to be feared. You'd be scared to be called it because of what it could do to your reputation, and you could be canceled and everything else. So this old clip of Clarence Thomas has been circulating across the interwebs of his confirmation hearing, where he showed an immense amount of courage when they were trashing his reputation, lying about him, and he basically said this:
"Rather die than withdraw. I'd rather die than withdraw. If they're gonna kill me, they're gonna kill me."
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process. Not for the purpose of serving on the Supreme Court, but for the purpose of not being driven out of this process. I would not be scared. I don't like bullies. I've never run from bullies. I never cry uncle, and I'm not going to cry uncle today, whether I want to be on the Supreme Court or not.
May we all have that attitude as we face whatever the future holds, honestly. And who knows? I don't. Just realizing the score, the score that you heard underneath that. Whoever made that video, that is the soundtrack from the movie The Last of the Mohicans, which I'm going to show my age here, but that is the first rated R movie I ever saw. I don't even know if I was allowed to see it. That was the first rated R movie I ever saw. I remember being like, "Oh, this is a rated R movie," But yeah, Last of the Mohicans. That's the soundtrack there. Who knows what YouTube's going to do with that? But may we all have that kind of courage. Threats against his life. Him saying, I don't care what they do to me. I'm not withdrawing from the process. And boy, that kind of courage, it's definitely paid off having Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court, a reliable originalist on the court. You know, the guy that had the courage to say, hey, you know, because Roe versus Wade is now unconstitutional, we really should revisit the whole Obergefell decision as well, because the states should have the right. If the states don't, if we leave it up to the states to decide whether or not you can kill your babies, surely the states have the ability to decide whether or not they want to recognize gay marriage. So here's the portion of the show. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's ridiculous, but they're trying to do the whole hantavirus thing, and they're trying to make this into the next COVID pandemic, or they're bringing out all of the old stars. Okay, so Deborah Birx has been making the rounds.
What more do we know about the Andes strain, how it might differ from the other strains?
So the Andes strain is the only strain where we have mapped human-to-human transmission. And I caution people, because when we say human-to-human transmission, we're talking about people who develop symptoms.
Okay, that's all that you're going to hear from her, at least today. She should, she, along with Anthony Fauci, should be in jail and should not be in a position to even pretend like they have a legitimate opinion at this point. After what they put the country through, after everything we know now. And I will have to say, this is disappointing to me, and I get it. One of the things President Trump has not ever come out and said is that, you know, Operation Warp Speed was a failure. He's you know, we obviously knew that he was never going to even broach those terms. We knew that in 2024. We know that. There's no surprise there. But I will say, not dealing with what happened in 2020, not dealing with it with a hard, swift hand and doing it decidedly, not dealing with Big Pharma, not making them pay the price, not making the military-industrial complex, if they had any role in the development of this, the EcoHealth Alliance, Ralph Baer, whatever, not having COVID accountability now means that the next time they want to cook up some sort of crisis, people like Deborah Birx and Anthony Fauci still get to walk around and try to run the psychological operation back. Hey, let's run it back. They get to run it back, and they get to run it back because they have not been disciplined, they have not been prosecuted, they have not been exposed. There still hasn't been the kind of national repentance from the government that lied to us about so many things with COVID that needs to happen. Instead, we now have two countries. We still have two countries when it comes to this. Two narratives about what actually happened in 2020. And when I saw Deborah Birx's face on national television again, I was mad. I don't know about you. Are you mad? I'm mad that this has been allowed to even, I know it's not happened again, but the fact that these people are still being wheeled out is just infuriating to me on so many different levels. Brett Weinstein, seems like a lot of early BS out of Wuhan. Don't forget the first time they locked us down, they set us to expect as a much worse pathogen than was circulating. This time the pathogen is highly virulent, he says, destructive, but it is also at worst barely contagious unless they've enhanced it. None of us know, but our skepticism should be turned up to 11. Hantavirus in humans is not new, and in its natural form, it is not a pandemic risk. So this is about this cruise ship and all this other stuff, and we got to talk about it. And again, I'm not spending a lot of time on it because I just refuse. And maybe we shouldn't even be talking about it at all. I just wanted to reference my frustration with the fact that these people still haven't been held accountable, and they're still in a position to do it again. That's what makes me mad. They're still in a position to do it again without, you know, I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, obviously. I'd like to think there's just no way President Trump is going to allow this to happen again. You know, remember the daily press conferences and all this other stuff. But, yeah, anyway. But President Trump taking Truth Social and slamming Neil Gorsuch. And the reason this caught my eye is because we slammed Neil Gorsuch. Maybe for slightly different reasons. Last week on the show, we were slamming Neil Gorsuch because he came out and talked about how America is a creedal nation. directly contradicted what President Trump told King Charles in that speech he gave. And I don't know who wrote that speech, but it was an excellent speech that he gave where he talked about Anglo-Saxon blood, and he talked about the fact that our culture in America was English. And then you juxtapose that with Neil Gorsuch, who said America was founded on the creed of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, that our rights come from God, but then in the same breath says, but that's not a religion and it's not a common culture. Excuse me? What do you mean? There is literally no nation ever that has sprung forth that doesn't have a culture behind it. It's so insane. And we talked about how also, if we are a creedal nation, which we aren't, if you do have a creed, what happens if you disagree with the creed? Nothing. You can't be deported, apparently. Do we pledge allegiance to a creed? No, not really. I told you correctly that if we are a creedal nation in the 18th century, do you know what that creed would have been? I believe in the Lord God Almighty, Creator of heaven and earth. That would have been the creed if it would have been one. But we were a Christian nation, and we were founded as such, even though people want to pretend that we weren't. They want to rewrite history, or they want to cite the least religious founding fathers like Thomas Jefferson, or go to the Barbary Pirates Treaty, or something like that, which was more of a diplomatic, declaration saying, hey, this isn't a crusade against Islam. People try to point to that, Thomas Jefferson, who's the least religious founding father that we have. Anyway, it's just nuts. Anyway, we talked about Neil Gorsuch in the context, though, of his statement on a creedal nation, how it's ridiculous. It basically means our nation is founded on nothing. Now, if we had a creed, and if you didn't obey the creed or you didn't adhere to the creed, you got deported or there were consequences, then maybe you could say that we're a nation founded on something. But functionally, practically speaking, we're a creed. If we're a creedal nation, but nothing happens if you disagree with that creed, fundamentally, we're a nation based on nothing. And that's the way they see us. That's why they're against nationalism. That's why they just want this to be some sort of economic zone and not an actual country. But we were wondering if this was somehow showing the cards of the Supreme Court when it comes to the birthright citizenship. President Trump seems to think, yes, that the Supreme Court is going to strike down his executive order on birthright citizenship. And that's what he says in this post. He says, I love Neil Gorsuch. He's really smart, but he voted against me on the tariffs. A devastating move. He says, with certain Republican-nominated justices that we have on the Supreme Court, the Democrats don't really need to pack the court any longer. In fact, I should be the one wanting to pack the court. I'm working so hard to make America great again. And the people that I appointed have shown so little respect for our country and its people. What is the reason for this? They have to do the right thing, but it's really okay for them to be loyal to the person that appointed them to almost the highest position in the land. I wonder if he's intuiting something there, that I'm the highest office in the land, you're not, and if this doesn't come out in my favor, I've got more options, but I don't know what those would be. He says Democrat justices always remain true to the people that honored them for that very special nomination. They don't waver, no matter how good or bad the case may be, but Republican justices often go out of their way to oppose me because they want to show how independent or above it all they are. I got elected in a landslide, including winning the popular vote, all 7 swing states, and electoral college, clobbering in all U.S. counties by 86%. I chose people to help our country, not to hurt it, and now, based on what I witnessed recently by being the first president in history to attend a Supreme Court session, they will be ruling against us on birthright citizenship, making us the only country in the world that practices this unsustainable, unsafe, and incredibly costly disaster. I don't want loyalty, but I do want and expect it for our country. Yes, I have another way of doing tariffs, but it is far slower and more laborious than what was just determined in a close decision to be illegal or unconstitutional with 3 powerful and highly accurate dissents. Well, maybe Neil and Amy just had a really bad day, but our country can only handle so many decisions of that magnitude before it breaks down and cracks. Sometimes decisions have to be allowed to use good, strong common sense as a guide. A negative ruling on birthright citizenship on top of the recent Supreme Court tariff catastrophe is not economically sustainable for the United States of America. Okay, well, so what are you going to do? He's exactly right. But what do you do about it when they come down and they say, you have to, if you get across the border and have a baby, the American taxpayer's got to take care of it for the rest of its life. The baby is now a U.S. citizen. What do you do when we can continue to be exploited as an economic zone instead of a country, instead of a nation? What do you do about it? I have no idea. But I keep telling you, we keep kind of dancing around this issue. Why are Republican states finally using their political power to redistrict Democrats out of the South? They're doing it because it's a last gasp. It's a last gasp to try to fix this problem within the confines of our current system. Notice the word current. Because both sides in this country find the other to be intolerable, and they don't want to live around them. They also don't want to live under their power and their rule. Both sides believe that right now. To the point where you've got, once again, dumb actors, thinking that we watch them because of their entertainment value. I'm sorry, because of their political opinions instead of their entertainment value. Enter Breaking Bad star Giancarlo Esposito. He's now talking about some sort of revolution because things are so bad. It's really weird how we're in totally different realities, totally different bubbles. Listen to this.
This is time for a revolution. It's time for it, and they don't even know that's what they're starting. Some very rich old white men are exerting their power to suppress our own people, thus creating a feeling of civil war in the streets, preparing the haters to hate, teaching them how to shoot. They're not even trained right, to kill. This is all a preparation for a very insidious problem that's happening in our world. And for me, I have to speak out that we will not be iced out. This is not going to happen. They can't take us all down. If the whole world showed up on Putin's doorstep or on the Iranians' doorstep or in Washington, it would they'll kill 550 million, however, but the rest of us would survive.
They'll kill 500 or 50 million of us. Who wants to follow that guy into some sort of revolution?
This is time for a revolution. It's time for it, and they don't even know that's what they're starting.
He'll be commanding the revolution from his ex-account in his big mansion somewhere. He's not going to be on the steps. He's not going to be one of the 50 million.
But we have to be strong enough to know that we can change the world. We have to change it from within. So if I'm spiritually ready and right, and I'm ready to understand other people and to
hang on. You're ready to understand other people. What are you talking about? You don't want to have some sort of debate where we're equals. You clearly think you have the moral high ground, but now you're spiritually right and you want to understand other people. I don't understand what your argument is.
Agree to disagree with them and say, okay, let's find the solution together.
He went from we need a violent uprising where 50 million people may die to now we need to understand. You kind of wonder if he's like, well, wait, what did I just say? I need to walk this back.
And that starts to change things, not by deporting immigrants, not by killing brown and even white people on the street. It's crossing over now, and believe me, this is gonna really spark the nature of so many people.
These guys are just, I've said this before, actors. I don't know if he's classically trained. I don't know. But if you ever go, they can't help themselves, but they also have no idea, where their profession fits into the grand scheme of things. If people don't have disposable, I keep saying this, but if you don't have disposable income to waste watching some guy, pretend to be something and read lines that somebody else wrote for him, they don't really have an industry at all. It's just really frustrating that they're just so detached from the people and the forces that actually make the world go round. Going and watching a movie is the icing of life. When they were good movies, now they're garbage, but. Anyway, just a basic understanding of economics would be great. But, he's not the only one. There's also Idris Elba, who is now wanting knife control in Great Britain because of stabbings.
The truth is that kitchen knives are perhaps 25% of the knives used in most of the terrible crimes. That's one of the stats in the films. And those kitchen knives are usually a domestic situation, okay? So kitchen knives, of course, it's very difficult. They're a domestic knife. I do think there is areas of innovation that we can do with kitchen knives. I hate to say it, not all kitchen knives need to have a point on them. That sounds like a crazy thing to say, but actually it would reduce. You know, you can still cut your food without the point on the knife, which is an innovative way to sort of look at it. And in a country in crisis, I'm sorry, but yeah, let's look at that. But the truth is, all knives, you know, the loophole on the heritage knives allows the sale of ninja swords to be sold. So while, you know, you've got your granddad's sword on there and you want that, that's fine, of course, but it is leaving a loophole for someone to carry a ninja sword. So let's ban them all, and if you have one of those knives, get a license for it. Simple as that. And I think it's a small contribution to society if you say, all right, I'm going to back that. I'll get a license for my granddad's sword.
They almost made that guy James Bond. So let me see this. I've got a pocket knife here that I use as a paperweight and to keep my mic cord from dropping off, or my headphone cord. It's obviously got a point, you can see there. So, you know, you would take the point off, and then I still have this sharp part of the knife where, I don't know if you can see that motion there, but pretty sure you could still slice somebody to bits, whether there's a point or not. But anyway, that is England for you. Pretty insane stuff, but that's why this political party called Restore Britain is gaining popularity, not just from, you know, knife control people, but also the fact is they're now less safe because of the flood of migrants. And then, of course, you know, one of your most famous actors currently wants to make it even harder for you to get a knife to defend yourself. Listen to this.
Why are you down here today supporting Rupert and Great Yarmouth First?
So, yeah, just ever since Restore's been announced, I've just been so excited about having a political party that actually puts the British people first, having a politician that actually cares about us, and I have just wanted to do whatever I can to help the cause.
And what are the main issues for you that brought you to the party?
Well, the main issue is just immigration. Having seen my country change so drastically before my eyes in my lifetime, and just being fed up of being told that I just have to deal with it and put up with it, and just being kind of my concerns and my needs just being shoved to the bottom of the pile, just being sort of, I see it as like just a massive assault from our government, to be honest. It's like, you don't matter, your concerns don't matter, everyone else matters more than you. And yeah, I'm just sick of it, really. And Rupert and Restore bring something that is so refreshing, because it's saying, no, you come first, you matter, your history matters, your culture matters, your needs matter, your safety matters. And that, for me, that's just makes my heart feel good.
Why are you down?
So we've got people like this girl who are rediscovering British nationalism, essentially. And again, it's this Restore movement. A guy named Rupert Lowe rallies Restore Britain Army for Great Yarmouth First.
Here's the opportunity for us to show the rest of the country what can happen. And as you know, well, branches are jumping up spontaneously, reflexively all over the country, as people actually start to realise the situation is very serious. And if we don't all stand up as a collective and start to make our voices heard, we're going to lose our country. So it's great to see it.
So, you know, you really think about it, like, because I've been, obviously I'm focused on my own country in America, but I don't have a lot of time to worry about Britain. You think we have an uphill battle. They have such an uphill battle. And I don't really know, I mean, to the point, you know, we talked about over here, we're still trying to work within the confines of our system. Over there, they're still trying to work with the confines of their system, but you just wonder if it's even possible over there. You certainly wonder if it's possible here too. Don't misunderstand me, but I don't know, man. They are very far gone. They are having local elections, and this is from the Associated Press. Britain's Keir Starmer fights for his job, his calls for his ouster grow after local election losses. British Prime Minister is fighting for his job. His Labour Party spurred dozens of lawmakers to call for his resignation after a devastating local election loss. Starmer plans to use a speech on Monday to argue that he can change track and revive his government's fortunes, but his position is fragile. His rivals weigh their options. This is from Hot Air, another headline. After losing his buttocks in local elections, Starmer declares war on right-wing and regular British. This is by somebody by the name of B.G. Welborn. He writes, there's dense, and then there's Keir Starmer. Calling him dense would probably be a misuse of the word, as it doesn't really begin to cover the nuances of Starmer's case. Obstinance might be better, but I always thought that implied at least to someone, or at least someone that was listening, even though with continued objections in the face of arguments. Dense is closer to his public persona, as he surely does seem to bear down on things that are hugely unpopular in the face of either public outcry or outright rejection, as with the recent elections. Continuing to march with such policies and pronouncements certainly qualifies as dense. But he's too much the devoted ideologue, with at least a feral intelligence to qualify for the intellectual meaning of dense. Starmer gave a speech this morning, this was the Monday speech that the AP was referencing, that I guess might be as close to a mea culpa as he is capable of, which means not really. Of course, in Starmer's world, he's the hero, not the dog. By ignoring the election results and gluing himself to the carpet in his office at number 10 Downing Street, he's sparring the UK chaos. This is a clip.
Just as I take responsibility for the results, I also take responsibility for delivering the change that we promised, for a stronger and fairer Britain that we must build. I take responsibility for navigating us through a world that is more dangerous than at any time in my life. And I take responsibility for not walking away, not plunging our country into chaos as the Tories did time and again. Chaos.
Thing is again, I don't know a lot about the politics over there, but I'm pretty sure he rose to power by because the opposing party lost power in a lesser fashion than he just was rejected. More from the Hot Air piece. Starmer, the selfless hero, is going to continue saving Britain whether they want him to or not from the dark path the British, Welsh, and even a few Scotsmen, checks notes, just voted for. Put another way, we will fight the British people in Brussels. We shall fight them on the French beaches with rubber boats full of third world migrants. We will fight them in the public squares with crowds of praying Mohammedans. We shall fight them in the raping places. Instead of what was it that he said in the speech about, I spent too much of time telling everyone the wonderful things I was doing for them.
I've spent too much time talking about what I am doing for working people and not enough time talking about why or who I stand for. Because I can see how hard life has been during these decades of crisis. I can see that very clearly. My late brother Nick spent...
Oh man, he's worse than an American politician. You can't stand it. Just absolutely incredible. Anyway, we don't talk a lot about the British government, but that's all I've got for you today. In other news, back to more pressing matters. America is facing a birth rate crisis, and here is a snippet from the Oval Office talking about this very thing.
That 1 in 3 Americans are underbabied. What does underbabied mean? That means that you either don't have any children or you have less children than you would normally want to have. And to Katie's point, we have a crisis that's causing our fertility rate to drop below 1.5 The replacement rate is 2.1. So we're way below what we need just to even replace the people that we have in America. And one of the challenges is that rural America, where there's 60 million people, have a mortality rate, maternal mortality rate when they have babies. That's about 30% higher. That 1 in 3 Americans are under-babied.
So, yeah, we do have a problem. This is from End Wokeness, insane chart on the death of marriage. 1975, Americans married by the age of 30. In 1975, 91% of women were married, 81% of men. 10 years later, 85, 77%. Look at that drop in 10 years from 75 to 85. We had just an over 10% drop from 75 to 85. 20% drop among men, almost. Well, not quite, but then 95, 64% of women aged 30 were married, 54% of men. 2005, 50% of women aged 30, 41% of men. 2015, 37% of women to 27%. And now in 2025, women who are 30 years old, only 1/4 of women who are 30 years old are married. And only 16.5% of men aged 30 are married. That is absolutely a travesty. It's insane, and it marks the death of a civilization. Whether we can blame it on we can blame it on a ton of things. We can blame it on Francis Schaeffer would probably blame it on personal peace and affluence. You're only worried about your personal peace and your affluence. Why do we need babies, right? I think if Francis Schaeffer, the theologian, the late theologian, were alive today, he might amend some of what he was saying. People are not getting married. I mean, you can just fundamentally say Christians are getting married, but not all Christians are either, because it's tough to find. But you can fundamentally say it's godlessness, it's the country, it's getting, the Lord has natural little triggers built into civilizations when they go off track. They tend to get invaded by third world barbarians. We can check that box. But it's a values crisis. People don't want to get married because they don't feel confident potentially that their kids are going to have better life than they will. You look at how difficult it is to live as it is right now. You look at feminism and how it's corrupted women. I mean, there's plenty of women out there that would not make their men happy. There's plenty of women out there today that are just so self-absorbed and obsessed with themselves and feminism, and they've bought it all. They don't want it's insane that they actually make for really, really terrible wives and is going to make for a terrible home life. And if you do get married, you have a whole nother court system that you have to contend with. Family courts are totally separate from civil and criminal courts. Totally separate, where men are not given their rights. Their rights are actually stripped and taken away from them in family courts all the time. There's a lot of factors here that go into this. But that is civilizational ending right there. That marks the death of America from within. And what was always the warning? America won't fall from outside forces. We will fall from within. And if you're not reproducing, if you're not having families, which, by the way, that's the whole point of living. Obviously, it's to, what's the chief end of man? To glorify God and enjoy Him forever. But within that context, that distinctly Christian context, it's going forth and multiply, subduing the earth. It's coming together, becoming one flesh, having children, raising them in the fear and admonition of the Lord. And there's so many people out there that they don't believe that. Now, they might see the natural good of that once they do get married, and many people do, because it is self-evidently good. Kids are good. Husbands and wives are good. But outside of a Christian context, it can be quite destructive because you're with, two flawed human beings. But these are the statistics, and it's absolutely daunting. Lizzie Marbach says this is why anyone denigrating marriage in any way, whether that is a blue-haired feminist or Nick Fuentes, should be seen as the enemy to the good. Marriage is good, and again, though, you do have to also at the same time recognize all of these hindrances to it. The hookup culture, why buy the cow when the milk is free? You can go to the old The old Dave Chappelle, what was that? That was from his old stand-up. Was it Killing Them Softly? That I'm not going to use the vulgar words that he used, but basically we'll just say sex. That if sex in terms of women allowing it was a stock right now, it would be plummeting because there's just too much of it out there. The women are giving it away. That's also, of course, the women have been sold that it's empowerment. And then, of course, the patriarchy, the wicked patriarchy, not the biblical one that would protect women and cherish women, but the one that still exists alongside feminism, that feminism doesn't want to. It's like, well, whatever you got to tell yourself, sweetheart, I'll see you at the club. Make sure you wear next to nothing or nothing at all. And you can tell yourself it's empowerment, but men are, and then you get to how the dating apps have affected peer-to-peer relationships. So a lot of these women, 20-year-old women are going on dates with 30, 35-year-olds who are more economically successful at this point because they've had longer in the workforce. They could take a woman out on a nicer date, whereas you have, peer-to-peer, they don't have that. And so there's a huge problem with that too. So we'll have to wait. I don't know, man. This is why over in Russia, they've got the problem too. Over in Russia, they have entire holidays or weekends, weekends that are dedicated towards staying at home and procreating because they recognize the benefit of having more Russians. And so it's good that the White House is drawing attention to this. Now, I'm not on the board of the IV. I don't think IV is the way to do it. I agree with the Supreme Court Justice of the state of Alabama that talks about how sacred life is and everything else, and we have to be more fearful of Almighty God than we do of this problem and using and treating life so flippantly. So I'm not on board with that. That's my belief. And again, I agree with that Supreme Court Justice out of Alabama. But this is a big problem. It's a big problem, and we need to fall to our knees and pray for the Lord to heal our land when it comes to this. And by the way, these numbers recover as a result of that, as a result of something as a spiritual repentance, not as just a technological fix. On the UFO front. The new UFO files from last week, John Harris, I think this is good. He says this in jest, but he says, "You'll never believe what's in the UFO files released today." Page 38.
Hello, Joseph. Trouble? Looks like we'll have to send someone down. A lot of people asking for help for a man named George Bailey.
I'm now convinced that It's a Wonderful Life is the greatest movie. And this is a big deal because, like, I talk about Lord of the Rings all the time as the zenith of filmmaking, and that is my favorite movie of all time. I would rank Lord of the Rings, and then my childhood favorite, which is still up there, is Back to the Future. But every November and December, the last few years, I've been watching It's a Wonderful Life, and I think it's just one of the greatest movies, if not the greatest movie of all time. On so many different levels. I feel like I could write a book. Every year I'm just learning more and more about how great it is. The pacing, the dialogue, the subtext. Oh, the subtext. If you know anything about good script writing, the subtext is what you strive for. The things that are communicated that are not actually said is brilliant. And the subtext, especially between George and Mary and their courtship, is my favorite. But anyway, there's that. But I will say this. So George Washington Bethune once did a sermon off of Galatians 1. He said this: Jesus Christ was a patriot. Galatians chapter 1, by the way, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. So he gave a sermon one time, says, Jesus Christ was a patriot. The overflowings of his love went forth through every channel of human affection. Faithful to his God, faithful to his people, and faithful to the world, he was not the less faithful to the land of his birth. This is clearly seen in his personal efforts to bless his brethren of a common ancestry, his tears over the waning glories of Jerusalem, knowing that the temple would be destroyed, and his command given after his bitter trials and death to begin there the work of evangelizing the world. Every Christian should be a patriot. Christianity is the religion of him who implanted in our hearts a love for our own, and who condemns the man who owns no such ties as worse than an infidel. The love of country is but an extension of the love of home. Very wise words. So you have that version of how we can think about ourselves as a nation, or you have the opposite, which would be found in this headline from the Daily Signal. Tyler O'Neill writing, Christian doctrine threatens psychological harm to child according to a Maine judge. So in the state of Maine, the gospel of Jesus Christ apparently is a serious risk to psychological harm to a girl. The case revolves around the custody of Ava, now 12-year-old daughter of Emily Bickford and Matthew Braden, who are not married, never married. Bickford later started attending the mom Calvary Chapel in Portland. Braden objects to his daughter joining her. Calvary Chapel, you see, teaches the Bible verse by verse, chapter by chapter, and the pastor actually believes in God, Jesus, heaven, and hell, and takes salvation seriously. But a Maine district court judge named Jennifer Knopfsinger notes that Braden was horrified to discover that Ava heard sermons about warfare, fallen angels, and eternal suffering. And the biggest kicker is the pastor learned of a custody dispute between Ava, concerning Ava, and when he learned about the custody dispute, he prayed about it in Ava's presence, asking God to protect her from the schemes of the enemy. The judge interpreted this as demonizing Ava's father and therefore threatened psychological harm. So now she can't go to church, according to the judge, not letting the mother take her daughter to church. Obviously, this is being appealed before the State Supreme Court of Maine. But you do have an interesting juxtaposition, don't you? It kind of, in a way, to me anyway, it kind of shows you that, once again, the choice is really binary, and that every country is going to have some form of blasphemy law. It's not really a question of neutrality. It's a myth. We know this. So you're either going to be a Christian nation or you're going to be a pagan nation when it comes to what's put out there in public life. And we've seen the benefits of live and let live, which many Christians, as a Christian 15 years ago, I was all about libertarianism and live and let live. But the rules changed. Live and let live was certainly, the left never believed in it, obviously. This is a story that they don't really care about that. But more importantly, live and let live fundamentally means that we just have to accept the blessings of liberty and allowing parents to trans their kids and call it health care, or allowing them to take them to drag shows for children where they get to watch a half-naked man gyrate on stage who's clearly getting his own satisfaction from being ogled by children in his half-naked state. If that's what live and let live means, ladies and gentlemen, count me out. The government needs to step in, hold up the practice, call it evil, condemn it, and prosecute people who break the law. At least that's my opinion. I don't know what you think, but let me know. That's all the time that we have for this edition of the Paul Harrell program. We'll be back here tomorrow. Hopefully, co-host Rob will be in seat number 2, and we'll have Eric Haynes back in seat number 3, and we'll be bringing you the news. God bless everybody out there watching. Want to give a shout-out to Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 24/7, and Jared Chiropractic. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
The Paul Harrell